live.
Hello, and welcome to Soultiful. My name is Latoya,
My name's Nakia.
I'm Toya.
And I'm Denise.
and today we are going to be talking about our mindsets and things dealing around Mrs. Denise Williams' expertise. Before we get into that, let's talk about what we've been working on. So, I have been working on my beauty brands content for July.
I worked on a project for a client.
I've been working on adding folks to our social media platform, GoKiss.social.
Cool.
Awesome. And I have finally finished working on my new book called From Broke to Broker, which we'll talk about today. So I'm super excited about
Yes, I'm
Thank
excited about that.
it.
Um, so to let y'all know who this beautiful woman here is, Miss Denise Williams. She is the third youngest of six siblings. She was no stranger to sharing space. She's always dreamed of a big house and having that space herself. So as she got older, her love for real estate grew from that childhood image. Finally, finding that space that she craved came while she was attending Valdosta. Is that how you say that? Valdosta? Valdosta
Shut up.
State University. But that was short lived due to her step into motherhood. For Denise, the struggle was real, trying to balance life, school, grades, and a child. But nevertheless, she prevailed. As a proud sister of Delta Sigma Theater, she graduated with her degree in finance and moved on to a dual graduate degree from the Clayton State University. She eventually got licensed as a real estate agent and worked for a large brokerage. Then life catapulted her into a phenomenal opportunity as a port operations manager. Although that job was great, it did have some aspects that made her feel that need of space again. So in 2016, she jumped all in on her original dream of real estate and got her license to become a broker. Through many tests and trials, she is now the proud owner of Williams and Company International Realty and has a second location coming in the future.
Awesome. Thank you
Ooh,
for that. Thank you. I'm like, who is she talking about?
Ah!
ooh. She's talking about my
Denise,
sister Denise.
yes,
Thank
Denise, please elaborate. Tell us about that journey.
Hmm.
Woo. Yes, so absolutely. So, as you mentioned, my name is Denise Williams, the proud broker and owner of Williams and Co. International Realty. But yes, it definitely was not something that I was able to achieve overnight. As she mentioned, my childhood, I'm actually the fourth oldest of six siblings, and my father, he was married twice. So I have three older sisters, and then I'm my mom's first child, and I have two siblings under me from there. But growing up, we grew up without a lot of money, which is a story that many of us in our culture, have. But one of the things that I think makes me different is that I didn't stay there. I didn't allow that to be an excuse or a barrier to my success. And that's one of the things that I really go into detail about in my book. So, just a little bit of background, I'm from a very small town called Hinesville, Georgia. Have you ladies ever heard of Hinesville?
Yes,
No, ma'am.
You have?
I'm
Okay.
from I'm from South Carolina, so I know a little bit about Georgia.
Awesome. So usually people have never heard of it, or if they have, it's because of the military base that's connected to it, Fort
Right,
Stewart. So a lot of military families come through there, but outside of that, you wouldn't know it really existed. I think we only have a population because of because of Fort Stewart. So born and raised in a very, very small town. I mean, chickens, pig, all that. Very country girl. And so from there, ended up going to Valdosta State University, as you mentioned. So trying to do what our parents taught us to do, right? Go get a degree, and then go get a good job. Well, I took that track. I was the first person in my family to ever get an undergraduate degree from a university. And so in doing that, I was still a little bit clueless as to, okay, I have this piece of paper, but what do I do next? I know I didn't want to go back to Hinesville. So I looked to see what was the next city over that wasn't too far, but could give me a lot of opportunity. And so I relocated to Atlanta, Georgia back in 2011. But I still couldn't find a job. I was still struggling to find a job. And so it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, but I did everything that I was supposed to do. You know, I joined a sorority, I graduated with a great GPA, I have all this community service, but it still was not good enough. And so I ended up getting a job at a company called Title Max, which was not a great experience at
I've
all.
seen them.
You worked with them?
No, yeah, I've worked with them before.
So you can feel my pain. And I'm like, this cannot be life. And I kind of skipped over the part about me actually having a child while I was in college. But in that, I knew that that couldn't be life. That couldn't be the future that I could leave for my sons. Obviously, if I'm working for someone, I can't leave a legacy anyway. And so I had to really take a step back and reevaluate life. And so in doing research and just looking up, you know, different careers and going back to childhood and knowing like, oh my God, I never want to be poor again. I never want to live in these kinds of conditions. Let me see what real estate is really all about. And so I ended up getting my real estate license in 2012, but I was very smart about it because what I realized was that there was a huge financial crisis surrounding real estate in 2008, 2009, right? So I didn't want to set my family up to be in a situation where the economy crashed and I had nothing for us to fall back on. So what I decided to do was go and get my real estate license. I got it in July of 2012. And in August of 2012, I ended up starting my MBA program. So I was like, I'm going to pursue both higher education and a career in real estate. That way, if the market for whatever reason crashes again, my family won't have to go and start from zero. And so that's what I did. You know, I did real estate while I was in school, which was very hard. I ended up actually getting another job at a real estate firm, which was great. And that's where it really gave me insight into how the brokerage role works. You know, as a new agent, you don't really know. You're just excited to get your real estate license and you think it's all about selling houses. And I think that's the mindset that a lot of agents have, as a matter of fact. And to me, it wasn't. So what I noticed about the industry was that I was in an office of over 200 agents at the time, and they would have commission checks coming in every single day, and there would be a different agent's name on that check. But one thing that stayed on every check was that company's name. It was on every single check that came through the door. And so I realized that I was on the wrong side of this transaction, and that I needed to put myself in the ownership seat because at the end of the day, being a traditional agent is great, but you don't have leverage. And being a mother, I wanted to have leverage. I wanted to be able to start and create a business that could outlast me. And so I was on a mission to learn every aspect of the industry that I could so that once I was eligible to get my broker license, I could do so and start my own business. So what I was able to do, I worked, you know, for that company, and then fast forward, I won't bore you guys with the details. Ended up working for a team and getting my real estate broker license. But one of the roles that I had was an associate broker, which was extremely important because it gave me the hands-on experience that I needed to really see, okay, well, how do you actually run a brokerage? How do you, you know, how should your day look? What does recruiting look like? You know, how do you set up training and build relationships? So in that role, I did that for almost 2 years before actually branching out to do my own thing. And so now I'm blessed to have a team of over 30 agents, you know, and we're continuing to grow. So it's just been a long journey, but it's been a blessed journey as well.
That is beautiful.
Woo!
Yeah,
Thank you.
Oh,
that's a lot. I love the name of the book, From Broke to Broker. Um,
Yes.
what's next since you've done so much in so little time? I mean, you're making me feel bad. But what's next?
Absolutely.
For me, what's next? I have been approved for my second location. I'm not necessarily
Woo!
that right in this particular moment, but I do know that we will open another branch, which will actually be in my hometown, which is where it all started. because people, they sleep on small towns. Like there's a lot of money to be
Man,
made
yes.
in small towns. There's less competition, and it doesn't take much to really dominate the market. And because of social media, and I love the fact that I'm going backwards, because now I've been able to show my hometown. She's been able to make it successful in Atlanta. Oh, I know I'm going to support her here in Hinesville. So it's like, wow, to like, okay, cool. That's definitely, and unfortunately, family sometimes is the last to jump on. They're the last to support you. Family and friends, they want to see. They don't want to be your guinea pigs. Whereas a stranger, they don't know you, so they don't know that you're the guinea pig, right? So I love that I'm able to go back home with a business that's already structured, already established, and then now I can just go back and really focus on giving back, educating some of my family that's still there, that don't own homes or don't know where to start, and just really dominate that market. So I would say that's one of the things that is next for me. Hopefully a ring is in the future. Hopefully that's that's in the, that's
Hey.
I have a son, as I mentioned, but I do want to have more children. Yeah, so that's basically the two things that I would say I'm looking forward to.
Nice. So let me ask you.
So, I,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
no,
Toya.
no, go ahead, Toy. You go ahead,
No, I
Toy.
didn't ask questions. You go ahead. I got questions.
All right. So I think number one, that was a super fantastic point that you made. I live in a small town right now. I'm not from a small town, but I'm here, and I see the local like optometrist or is that how you say it? The eye doctor guy. Yo, he's just making money hand over fist because he is the guy in the area, and so that is something that I want viewers to know. If you live in a small town, don't sleep on it. Don't feel like you have to go to Atlanta or go to Chicago or somewhere. You can make a fortune in your small town being the go-to person. So
Mhm. I think
yeah,
that
right
goes
in your backyard that you already know.
exactly. I think it goes back to confidence as well, right? You kind of feel like you have to have the big and the fancy. And like I said, I'm blessed to have already accomplished that. So it's easier to make the transition back there. But I think when you have a small town, sometimes it also makes you have a small town mentality. And so you're not able to really think big because you haven't experienced big. And so you fantasize
That's
about
true.
things versus believe in yourself and think that you can actually bring those things to fruition. Or you might look at someone and say, well, they're in Atlanta or they're in Chicago. So yeah, they have access. No, you can really create your own, pool and your own following and book a business in a small town. So I'm excited about it. It's definitely not a
Yes.
bad thing at all.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm excited
Um,
for you. I did have a question as relates to real estate. So in
Mhm.
Georgia, how long do you have to be an agent before you can become a broker?
3 years in Georgia. But I
Okay.
actually became a broker in Florida. So in Florida, it requires 4 years before you can become a broker.
So are you able to be a broker in both states?
I'm licensed in both states.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I've considered opening an office in Florida, but I'm not ready for that yet. I don't want to have to
Okay.
travel to Florida right now. hmm
okay.
Got it. Um, Go ahead, Toya. I have more questions, but go ahead.
I know you got. Go ahead.
Okay. So here's the thing. I love real estate. Like real estate is bay. I wholesaled in Florida,
Oh
and
wow.
I really enjoyed that. Yeah, and so what we are told, like in our wholesale communities, don't become a real estate agent
Okay.
because you won't. It's all the red tape and all that kind of stuff. Could you speak to that?
Well, here's the thing. My company is an investor friendly firm. I personally invest in real estate. I own real estate, and I have agents on my team that also invest in real estate. Um, they're not full out wholesalers, but they understand how it works and they do that. There is pros and cons to both options. When you're a wholesaler, oftentimes you are not held accountable. So people enjoy that accountability piece, not necessarily overpowering the transaction. When you're a wholesaler, you can make 50,000, 80,000, $100,000 in a transaction and there's no real recourse. with regard to agency, they expect us to be professionals and to tell our sellers what their home is truly worth and not take advantage of them per se. So as a wholesaler, you're not held to that same standard. They also can't call the real estate commission to report your license, whereas as an agent, you have to be really careful with those kinds of deals, because if that seller finds out you're affiliated with a brokerage, I'm getting a call and they're like, no, your agent told me, that my house wasn't worth X when I was, depending on them to help me with those comps, and it can become a whole situation. So I do think, and that's the con, right? But the pro of being an agent and being able to work as an investor is that you can save on commissions. You don't have to pay another listing agent once you have the property ready, to go back on the market. You can sell it yourself, so you save money in that regard. And when you're buying the property, you can earn the commission as the agent. You just have to disclose that you are licensed, in the state of Georgia or whatever state that you're in. So it's really pros and cons about how you want to do it. I personally don't care for the wholesale industry. Like, I wouldn't be a full-time wholesaler, simply because I don't like operating in the wild, wild west.
It is wild, wild westy. I agree.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe wholesaling. I know that people preach that all the time. Like, okay, you want to start in real estate, start wholesaling. That's how you get your money up. That's how you do this. But if you look at it as a full picture, yes, you are. But in order to be a successful wholesaler, you have to have I don't want to say the wrong thing, but you have to be not a mean person, but you kind of have to be a mean person. Like, you have to be willing to take advantage of people, because that's the only way to really get good deals. And some might say that, hey, it's not, huh? Oh.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
Oh, some might say it's not taking advantage of it if this is what they agreed to pay me and they're comfortable with that number. But you still have the knowledge, though. Even though you're not licensed, you have the knowledge. That's why you're a wholesaler. You're getting that middle split. So you're going to do everything in your best interest. And so I don't personally like operating in that space as a full-time wholesaler. I have, dealt in that space, but it just doesn't necessarily feel right to me. But it's not a bad thing. It's just personal preference.
I think that's a good point you made. In anything that you do, make sure it feels right for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's so important. So I have one more question, and that is, so COVID and everything else that's going on in the world, is it a good time to buy?
Yes, to me, I think it's always a good time to buy if that's your real estate goal. What people have to stop doing is comparing their decisions to other people's decisions. Because honestly, I don't think that the market influences someone more than their cousin, brother, auntie, sister, mother does. And I think that they have those conversations with other people and they allow those opinions to dictate when they should or shouldn't buy, when they should or shouldn't sell. Real estate is a very cyclical market. So there's always going to be ups, there's always going to be downs in the market. There's always, I'm sorry, just trying to get this thing going. There's always going to be a wrong time for someone. But
For you, I agree.
But when you look at your personal profile, and one of the things that people leave out is when they're telling their stories about when they bought a house, they're leaving out their credit score. They're leaving out, their down payment. They're leaving out what location that they purchased in. So that already lets you know that the process is going to be different for you. Every real estate process is personal. It's personal to you. And
That's
so
great.
I think if you go into it with that mindset, you'll be able to really make the decision to say, yes, I should buy now, or no, I should not buy now. But with regards to the overall market, I have seen some really good interest rates for buyers. So because there is a pandemic, lenders want people to buy, so they're giving out more incentives. And if you know the real estate market, it's really dictated on what's going on in the world. So you may be getting good interest rates today. I'll get a call from my lender tomorrow, like, interest rates are back at 10%. It literally just changes every single day. So you really have to just be confident to say, yes, I'm ready. I have the money, I have the credit, and this is a good deal for me.
Very good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So one of the questions I had was, well, we got to backtrack a little bit because we kind of jumped into this, but what are the types of brokers? And like Nakia had mentioned, what is a broker per se?
So a broker is the best way to describe a broker is to use it in terms people already understand. So you have a corporation, right? You have a CEO of a corporation, and then you have employees that work for that corporation. It's similar to in the real estate industry. Because I'm an independent brokerage, I own my own real estate company as a whole, and I'm the CEO of this company. As a real estate agent, you cannot practice real estate without associating your license with a broker. So every agent that you've seen on social media, they work for a company. So you may have seen some of the big names, you know, Keller Williams, Better Homes and Gardens, things of that nature. The agents under those brokerages have to be associated in order to practice real estate. So as a broker, my responsibility is to manage this company. It's risk and reward, right? So as you know, on the risky side, I'm responsible for everything, every transaction, even if the agent is managing that transaction, it's technically my transaction. So I am responsible for what happens in that transaction. I'm responsible for compliance, recruiting, marketing, this beautiful office space I'm sitting in right now. Yeah, if agents don't close, I still have to cut the check. So, you know, it's a lot of responsibility, but the rewards, you know, are really, really great as well, because every transaction that closes, my company gets a percentage of every transaction. So that's one of the beautiful parts about it. And I also just enjoy being a broker. Some agents may have been in the industry 10, 20 years, have never gotten their broker license. It's because they don't want the responsibility. They don't want to deal with the different personalities. They don't want to train people. You know, it's like they just want to make their money, focus and stay in their lane, and go home and do their thing. So does that kind of make it clear as far as the differences between the two?
What are some of the qualities
Okay,
you need to
awesome.
be a broker?
I would definitely say you have to have a business mindset. When you're a real estate agent, I can't tell you how many agents I've met that don't have an LLC, that don't even know how to create a business entity, or just simply don't run their business like a business. They're just out here trying to do as much as they can, get a buyer or seller to work with them. But they don't have a business mindset. They don't have a long-term goal. They don't write out their goals. I think when you're a broker, you have to look at it as a business. You have to look at it and be very sincere, and you have to be a good person, because you're dealing with people's finances and livelihood. So you have to be someone who's not willing to take advantage of people. You have to be someone who's willing to, you know, maybe even sacrifice on your own end for your team. You know, there's a number of occasions where I've been willing to waive fees or reduce this or do that to help other people, and taking money out of my own pocket or my own personal, you know, income that I could have had. You know, you have to be willing to give up some of your transactions for an agent who may have never sold anything. So I think you really have to have a heart to give, a heart to make sure that you're ethical, because there are a lot of brokers out here that do things that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And you have to be very organized. There are a lot of people who just don't want to take the time to read contracts and deal with compliance and keep things on file for a certain number of years. It requires a lot of administrative work. And unfortunately, a lot of salespeople are really great at sales, but the organization and admin is just not in them. So if that's not something that is a strong point for you, then being a broker is not going to be something you enjoy.
Okay. One more question. Um, for someone going off to college, what are some sage words of advice?
Someone going out the guys, stay away from the older guys. Going away to college. That was advice I should have been given, right? Stay focused. Always remember what you're there for. You're there to get a degree. You're there to better yourself. Yes, you're there to have experiences. Yes, you're there to not have to deal with your parents or hear your parents' mouth. But remember that you're there, and everything that you're doing at this moment is going to dictate how far you're going to go in a lot of cases. Now, of course, we have those stories where it's like, oh, I dropped out of high school in 10th grade, or I dropped out of college or whatever. And that's great, but that's definitely not the majority. So if you're there, don't waste your money and go and goof off. Go and remain focused, get your degree so that you can take your life to the next level. Because that girl or that boy that you may meet oftentimes don't become your husband. So it's not the time to really focus on that. Right now is the time to focus on your education and solidifying your future.
Very, very wise words from such a young lady. That was one of my questions earlier that I had. Has your age impacted you at all in that industry?
It has. I feel like, because I'm younger, I've been slower to grow. Well, I'm blessed because I have a team that a pretty decent sized team. But I do think that the number of years of experience at first, before even starting my firm, that was a self-doubt thing that I had to get over. Because, I meet agents all the time who've been in the business 10, 15, 20 years and have never pursued their broker license. And so I would always wonder why. And it will come down to the things that I talked about, liability, not wanting to deal with people, just wanting to make their money and do their own thing, while the company had held all the expenses and things of that nature. So I had to get over that, and I had to understand that there's always going to be people who have been in the business longer. It's always going to be people who may have sold more real estate. There's always going to be other people, but you have to know and understand your gift and your talents, and you have to be confident in that. And the people that can see that in you or relate to that will support you. And that's exactly what has happened. So I've been able to take that being a disadvantage and really use it to my advantage. I think that it's one of the things that have allowed me to be on this call with you guys today is the fact that I'm so young and have done what I've done. So it's now, instead of looking at it as a disadvantage, I'm like, oh, wow, that's actually one of my unique selling propositions, that I am one of the youngest female real estate brokers in the nation, and to be African American is just icing on the cake. So at the end of the day, I no longer look at it as I'm too young to do what I do, but I'm blessed to be young and do what I do.
I love it. Let's talk about this book, please.
Yes.
So what would you like to know about the book? It's pretty much a more detailed version of the things that we're going over right now. In the beginning, I really just run down, my upbringing, because at the end of the day, it's very important that you never forget where you come from. And your childhood really dictates so much of who you are as an adult. I was born and raised, we didn't have a lot of money at all. I mean, you'll see in the book some of the things that we experienced as children, which is sometimes people use that as an excuse, but it has been nothing but the fire in my soul, because I do not want my son to experience the things that I have gone through. And so I talk through that, and just the cycle after cycle that I've seen from, great grandmother to my mother, and nobody actually stepping up and making that difference. That's one of the things I go over. I would also talk about just growing pains when I transitioned from, being a young child and adult to going to college, and how I was impacted there. I actually became pregnant my second year in college, which was a huge shock to, when you're from Toya, you can relate. When you're from a small town, everybody know everybody business, right? So my mother, when I was raised, she was the choir director, and and so she was the choir director, and our family was very, yes, 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 and I mean, like this with the pastor, and their family. So actually, the pastor and his wife and children lived on the street behind us after we moved. And so we were very close to the pastor, and so me getting pregnant was a big deal for her. And so I talk about in my book how we, really fell out over that. And it was devastating for me, because you never want to lose your mother. And you especially don't want to lose someone when they're still here. It's what, when they're gone, that's one thing, but when they're still alive and not be able to call your mother, not be able to talk to her during a time such as that was very, very, very hard. And then also just going into the complications that I had with my pregnancy and my son, and even getting him to this world. I'm going to get emotional if I talk about it. But just really going into detail about the experience I had during my pregnancy. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh.
not gonna cry. Okay. Not gonna cry. So yeah, so going because this is my first time actually being vulnerable and opening up to the world
Mhm.
on a personal level with regard to what I've
Yes.
done. Most people that have met me in this stage in life is just like, oh, she's so driven, she's so this and like that. It's like, wow. But you don't know, like I was broken, I was broken. It really took a lot to get to where I am emotionally, financially, physically, everything. And so to defy the odds, it was important for me to get all of this documented on paper because people ask me all the time, and now I have a product to give them. I'm like, you want to know how I got here? Here you go. It'll save us a long, long conversation. And so then after, going through that phase with my son, I also talk about just my experience with going back to school, the reason why I did that, and, just being in college and having different experiences in my graduate program. And then talking about real estate, my transition to Florida. The reason I actually lived in Florida was because I was in a previous relationship and I was engaged. And it obviously didn't end up working out. And so that was how I ended up in Florida. So I talk about how as women, sometimes we make adjustments in our life for a man. And I'm sure men do the same thing, but sometimes love will cause you to literally uproot your life to pursue a relationship. And so I thought that that was important to share because you need to understand that you can do things on your own. You don't have to have someone in order to be successful. And I think that it was to me almost like a golden ticket to pursue what I wanted when it ended up just being an epic fail. So, and then being able to go through, the embarrassment of posting engagement photos and all this stuff on social media just to turn around and be like, about that. We were already planning the wedding. I mean, everything.
In there.
So, but I feel like, huh? So you drink today? You been there?
I have. I canceled my wedding 2 days
But
before.
it's wow. But I made that decision. I haven't looked back. So you have to do what's best for you, even if it's going to be uncomfortable for a time.
Yeah.
But 2 days before, you got me beat.
Best
Yeah.
decision ever. I was embarrassed at first.
Yes,
Like,
yes. See, exactly.
it was the best thing for me, and I wasn't doing it for the right reasons anyway.
It was.
I was pregnant. I don't have to get married, so
Mhm.
it was the best decision ever.
Yes. Right. And that's how, I went through that same thing. It's like, oh goodness, it was already the whole stepdad situation, and now I'm breaking up, and it's like I got to find another man to be around my son. You have to overcome all those different things. And who doesn't want to be married? Who doesn't want to be with someone? So it was hard even in that regard. But again, I agree with you. It's been the best decision for me. I'm now dating someone who's absolutely amazing. He gets his own little section in the book because he's been with me through this journey. And it's been awesome.
Great.
Thank you. He's actually in the industry. So, yes, he's in real estate as well. So we actually met. This industry has blessed us in more ways than one.
Amen.
And then the last chapter just talks about just betting on yourself and really just going after what it is that God has put in you to do. I'm not anti-corporate America at all. I think that you should leverage corporate America as long as you need to in order to get to where you are going to go. But I think that everyone needs to own something, because the only way to really, really ever, and I have to get over the fact that not everyone is, aspiration is to have a lot of money in life. That's not just, some people just don't want that or don't. But ultimately, I think that if you live a life with that mindset, it's a little bit selfish, especially if you intend to procreate, because what we have to stop doing is making our children start from zero. Like, if you don't want to do it for you, at least do it for them. Find something that you can leave to your family, even if it's not a business. Make a life insurance policy, buy a real estate property, do something that you can leave to the next generation. And we have to just stop making our children suffer from our mistakes, or being that parent to say, you owe me because I raised you. It's like, no, I didn't ask to be here. That was your job, you know, so you just did your job. Now you're seeing the fruits of your labor. But that's just my thoughts with regards to legacy, because I hear that all the time. Everybody's always like, you know, what's your goals in life? I want to leave a legacy for my family. What does that truly look like, though? Is that just words, or are you actually putting a foundational process and plan in place to say, this is my legacy? Child gets this child gets that, my church gets that. I think that we have to stop saying what we want and actually plan and do the things that need to be done to make it happen.
That's awesome. So
Totally
you mean to tell me
concur.
the book not only gives awesome self-help advice, but is the love story in there too? Yes.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. Talk about Bay in the book. Gotta talk about him. Yes, he's been with me from the start of this. We've been together about 3 years now, so it's been great. It's been a blessing. And because we're in the same industry, it helps so much because we speak the same language. And we do other things together outside of real estate. We have a couple other businesses, but it's just been a blessing. We've done a couple talks together and talk about how it is to do business with each other, being in a relationship.
Oh,
Some people
nice.
like, don't get your honey, yes, yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, she's gonna have to come back for that conversation. We're gonna have to have that. Yes.
More than happy to do that. We could
That'd
definitely
be so cool.
Yes. He loves to throw me under the bus at any chance he can.
Yeah, I have a question, Denise. We're all part of the same industry. We're all virtual assistants,
Okay.
and we have a group that caters to new and aspiring. And there's always sisters in there that want to cater to the real estate industry. So do you all work with VAs? Do you work with people virtually and admins and stuff?
I'm actually interviewing one on Friday. I didn't realize you did that. But I do. I leverage VAs to do recruiting calls, sales calls for listings, things of that nature. So yeah,
nice.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, well, that's good to know. Then we'll connect.
Fiverr or Upwork.com to find help.
Very nice. Okay, well, that's good to know, guys. You hear that, Denise, and a lot of brokerages, do you think, utilize the virtual assistants?
I believe so.
Okay.
I think, I know it's more so, it's not like a brokerage thing as far as in my experience, it's an individual agent thing, because each agent has your own virtual assistant.
Got it.
And I need my personal virtual assistant for like recruiting, calling agents and things of that nature.
Very
and
nice.
then for personal business, calling for listings and things like that.
So guys, y'all hear that? There is a market for it.
There is.
Yes. That would be an authentic relationship, organic relationship for what you guys do.
Yes.
Absolutely. Nice.
But yeah, we'll have to connect outside of this so y'all tell me more about that.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I certainly will.
Do y'all have any more questions?
I'm just trying to think. There's such a wealth of knowledge in this young lady. I was like, I don't want to let go. Let me see.
Oh, I appreciate that. That's
very inspirational, especially with us children.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about my kids. I have 6 children, and I just think my girls, I would love for them to be able to hear your story, see how you roll, and you're beautiful, you're young. They look for stuff like that, So I don't know. We might have a kid show. And
I have a son who's actually my business partner. So he gets on our Friday. So I do a Friday call with my team every week. And he gets on and he goes live. He closes out our meetings with our quote of the day. I have him sit in with me on meetings and things like that. Because it's one thing to just leave him money when I die, but it's a whole nother thing when he's been a part of the process. So I think
that's right.
Really make them a part of the process. Like that's when they'll feel responsible for it. That's when they'll understand it, and they won't sell your business as soon as you die, or sell that house, or sell because they don't understand the grind. They don't understand. They have to
That's
learn the
that's
appreciation for themselves.
that's
They
right.
have,
That's the key. They don't understand, like you're saying.
they don't.
Absolutely.
All they see is like, okay, mommy bought me this toy, mommy bought me this or that, but they don't really understand. So I'm really focusing on him as far as, no, you get in here, you go and look this up. I need a new marketing idea. Go on here and help me find it. Really helping him. And I reiterate to him on a weekly basis. I'm like, this is our business. How can we grow this business together?
Hey, love it.
We have business conversation all the time. He doesn't really understand it now, but he's finally starting to come around, and like I don't have to beg him for my quotes of the day anymore. He's starting to get
Mm.
opinion. Coming with me to the office is like not a big deal as much as it used to be. Like, oh, I don't want to do that, but getting him, he even gets his own t-shirts, his own marketing material. Like he's a part of the team.
Yes.
Make it as real for him as
Good.
possible.
Love it. Thank you. That's get my creative
So,
juices going.
if
That's
you look
awesome.
Instagram, there's a video of him doing a now hiring video.
Oh
So he's
wow.
in the office and he's like, Williams and Co. is now hiring.
I love it. And y'all, we will have all of her information in the description box below. So make sure that y'all go and check
Book.
her out.
Yes,
Yes, the book it is ready to be
yes,
reviewed. It's ready,
it
it's
is.
out now.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we will
Yes.
have all of that in the description bar below. We'll have all of her social media links as well as ours, of course. And
Yes.
today's show, just to let y'all know, is sponsored by Yoto Services, where we focus on freedom and flexibility for all of the beauty industry. So, is there any other questions?
Nope.
Is there going to be an audio version of the book, Denise?
I'm gonna have an ebook as well as the
Okay.
paperback, but I haven't
Okay.
done audio.
Okay.
I've been thinking about it because I do like to read a lot of audiobooks or listen to audiobooks, but I just
Hmm.
don't want to dictate it. I don't want to be the author on audio. I don't know why. I don't like my voice. So I would have
Ooh, I might have to
someone,
do a snippet for you, sis. I might have
yes,
to do a snippet for you.
somebody have to do it for me because I don't want to do that.
Totally understand. Totally
Uh,
understand.
Awesome.
Well,
yes,
I'm excited. As soon as my little paycheck comes in, I'm finna buy the book. You got a book,
yes.
right, Nakia? Are you
The,
you pre-ordered it?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I said I
Yep.
bought the book already.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just like Denise, when she said, "Oh, I bought the book," I'm like, "You don't even know her. What you mean you bought the book?" And
I
I
did a
I get
pre-order.
it now. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I do my
Uh-huh.
homework.
I
So
appreciate
I'm
it.
excited about buying it as well. So thank you so much, sis. We really appreciate the
Thank you guys
connection and
for having me. I
information.
appreciate this.
Yes.
Latoya, we probably cousins,
Yes, the
the
Williams,
last
you know
name.
it. You know it. You know it. Well,
Absolutely.
guys, thank y'all for joining today. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so that you always know when we are live and in color. Every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here, guys.
All
And
right.
let
Bye.
us know what you're working on too.
I'm
Bye.